Action, activate! Oh my gosh.
Here we come, there they go. Evil runs, 'cause they know we're super soldiers. We got cool clothes. You real smooth, and you see our pose. Tension, energize. Let's go. Time to ride. Combine. Crease ties. Side game.
Boom, it is us. Hello and welcome to Action Activate. It's me, Gazbot. We're here talking Ranger ramblings, and with me as always is...
The Dawg Defender.
That's right. I kind of fumbled the opening there. I'm like, he's the man with him.
I'm
him.
here. We're here.
It threw
We're
me
doing
off.
it live.
We're doing it live. It threw me off. We were starting a little bit late, but you were not late at all. I was the reason. Technical stuff made us start a couple minutes late. But thank you to those that are here. You are a good man. I got a text from you, and it says we are good. So excellent. So for those that don't know, we are picking up. Last week we missed a weekend, so we put up the interview with Nakia, which was awesome that she did that for us. And there, if you haven't watched that, there was like a little extra bonus ranger jumped in the middle there, so you might want to check it out if you haven't. And we are doing part 2 of an episode we started 2 weeks ago. So would you like to fill people in on what we were doing there and where we're going with this?
Yes. So the season prior to Power Rangers Beast Morphers was Power Rangers Ninja Steel. It was before the kind of crossover of Hasbro taking over on Power Rangers. You could definitely see some difference in quality of episode. Not that the production's bad or anything, or that the actors are bad in any way, but I definitely am enjoying Beast Morphers more than Ninja Steel overall. And
Agreed.
This episode specifically is where they cross over with a space sheriff, and we are halfway through the episode. If you haven't seen it, feel free to go to the last episode. Heard a lot of feedback of people liking how off the rails we got. So if that's something you're into, or just curious what I mean by that, go check it out on YouTube.
Yeah,
But-
I think temporarily it is still up on Twitch, because all the videos usually stay for a little while.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
right now they're available on both. Although we do prefer YouTube, because then you could comment. You know, this is live now, but when it's on YouTube, you got to do it in the comments below, obviously.
But taking a look, is there anything you want to go over before we dive in?
Well, no, I mean, you kind of covered it. Oh, hey, Matt Claire, nice to see you. And again, hello to everybody live and those watching it recorded later. Basically, if you didn't watch the first part, just to catch you up, the space sheriff, they call him Sherrif Skyfire, and he's based on one of the metal heroes in Japan, Jiraiya, and he lands and tries to arrest somebody on Madame Odious' ship, who is the main villain at this point for the Rangers, and she basically easily convinces him that they are villains. He goes down, they fight. There's a scene that makes no sense with an old woman, which is something I'm not going to get back into. They realize they're both good guys, then they team up, and now he's like, I got to go capture this villain, and that's about where we landed. Now, the subplot of all this was that there's a new janitor slash security guard slash everything at the school named Clint, who we've never seen before. A Renaissance man, if you will. Who we've never seen before and will never see again, who features prominently in this episode. And I think we mentioned that the actor is actually the voice of Redbot, but this is him as a human. And he is upset, among other things, by the fact that certain people, including the Rangers, are not recycling properly and doing their due diligence as perfect citizens of the world. And so they went to talk to him, and he's going to quit. And, you know, meanwhile, at the same time, now we're looking at this wanted poster, and that's kind of where we are.
One thing before we dive into part 2, you had mentioned a big villain, actually, in terms of, I know we usually do news at the end,
Right.
But wanted to just say, for those that didn't know, the actor who played Lord Zed actually passed over this weekend. Wanted to just update everybody with that beforehand. It was I'm gonna blank on his first name.
Robert Axelrod. Yeah,
thank you.
We could talk about more at the end with that, sure. But yeah, for those that didn't know, he did die. I think it was 2 days ago now. Apparently, he actually Yeah, we'll get into it more later because I was going to talk about some more stuff about him. But yeah, for those that didn't know, that's the news on the top. But we'll get into it some more. But obviously a terrible thing when anybody goes, but especially somebody that's so beloved.
So iconic.
Iconic, yeah, iconic and beloved and iconic, and I don't know what else. I keep wanting to say other things, but I'm saving that for the news portion. So you shouldn't have brought it up.
We'll save some other things for it toward the end, but wanted to say that first just so we can, not change the mood drastically throughout. But let's dive in a little bit.
Hey, Dolly girl, and yeah, Matt Kendall had heard about it as well. Okay, so this is where we're saying. So from here. Oh my gosh, I'm totally forgetting her name.
Oh, they just recycled.
Yes. And the bomb was in the recycling.
They found the bomb in the recycling.
No.
They threw it out.
They didn't realize it was a bomb. They threw it out, but they didn't know at the time it was a bomb.
Correct.
Yes.
What is her random star again?
That's for the Blaze Megazord.
There we go.
I'm backing up because I'm trying to remember if they realized that he had the bomb. Clint, that is. They might not yet realize he had the bomb. But anyway. Oh no, they do realize. Okay, that's what it is. Sorry. We're trying to remember because it was 2 weeks ago. So they're like, he shows the picture of the monster that's made of bombs. They realize the thing they threw away was a bomb, and Clint is in danger. And she's like, "Hey, I have my new Blaze. This is her component of the Blaze Megazord, and I guess it's supposed to be super fast." So she's like, "I know how to catch him in time, even though he's just in a van, and any of them theoretically could catch him. This is an excuse to use her new Zord. Fine."
Yep.
And this is the Zord. Now I don't love the Zords in this season. They're not my least favorite of all time because there's something kind of kitschy and goofy about them. Like I have the Japanese versions and I love the sound on it. The Blaze Megazord, which is the one they have at this point, which is the second version,
Garbage.
I disagree. I prefer the Blaze Megazord to the original Megazord. However, I think the individual components are garbage. So while I like the overall look of the robot that it becomes, her Zord here is just like, oh, it's block of whatever. They look exactly like the toys, which I think is what they're going for. Because it used to be, the TV show looks so much cooler than the toys. But instead of bringing up the level of the toys, they've brought down the level of what we see on the show in some ways. Because this thing is just a brick. It flies through. It's super fast, but it's a brick.
I think that the Blaze Megazord is an orange and blue brick, regardless of if it's combined or individual. And the first Megazord has a lot of charm because it is so random. These things should not combine.
I mean, I have both in my collection, so obviously I don't dislike either, but I have them both only ever in the Megazord formation, but I did put them together and take them apart when I first got them and played with them, and the individual components of the first Megazord for this season, I do believe are better. There's like a wolf and a train, and it's kind of slapped together, but they are things. The Blaze Megazord, they don't look like things. You know what I mean? They just look like, it looks like you smashed the robot to pieces, and now these are just pieces that are flying around. But I do like the way it looks put together. I understand you don't, but that's difference of opinion. Fine.
This is quite the tame argument this early.
Well,
compared to part one,
yeah,
we're a little too, low on the level of arguing. I grossly disagree. No,
we don't need to aim for arguing. Plus, if I don't think either of us feel especially passionate about the Zords. I'm like, I kind of prefer it. You're like, I kind of don't. But I don't think any of the Zords from the season are either of our absolute favorites, and that's why it's not really.
I like Redbot, and this is a weird reason why, but he reminds me of the red individual Zord from In Space, but cooler.
Oh, okay. He also reminds me of the red individual Zord from this season. Like they're almost the same. Like
they're similar, but is a kid with that toy.
Sorry, you cut out a little bit. Can you repeat that?
Oh, I said as a kid, I fondly remember playing with the In Space individual Zord.
Right.
And then this is a updated, cooler version that's more on theme.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Well, regardless, the Mac and Claire is saying we both like to argue, but hey, it's good entertainment. Well, again, this is not a big argument, and
sure.
And actually, later on when we see the Megazord at the end, when we have a visual, then I will maybe point out things I like or dislike about it at that time as well. But so anyway, I cannot for the life of me remember the name of this character. I know it, but I'm blanking on it. The White Ranger. I said the Pink Ranger before, but it's the White Ranger
of the bomb.
No, of her, the character's name.
Yes, the White Ninja Steel Ranger. whose name I also don't know.
Okay. I'm like, what do you mean? The human. All right. Anyway, so here's her. The reason I grabbed this, though, was because this is her in the individual cockpit of her Blaze Megazord Zord, which I can't remember how often they show that. Not super often. And it just looks like she's standing in front of like a wall that someone painted with flames badly, almost like an elementary school paint. Like, oh, look, we've got flowers in the gymnasium or something. And it just, I'm assuming this is American only because I think the power-up mode is American only.
Oh, it is, 100%.
And it just looks very cheap.
I like to think that she shrunk down kind of like Ant-Man or the Atom, and she's in the pocket of one of Guy Fieri's shirts.
Oh my gosh, that makes, and she's on the inside, which is why it looks a little faded because it's the wrong side of the print.
Exactly. It doesn't have like a full logo like this.
Right.
It's the inside where you just like kind of get what it is. So I like that headcanon better.
That makes sense, and she still has to be in her Zord to be protected from flying chili and cheese and things that are coming at his face. Mechanical Claire Haley, thank you, Mechanical Claire Haley is the ranger we were talking about. Okay, so she gets there first. She kind of teleports down from her Zord. We don't see it land, and the truck stops, and he hops out like, "Whoa, what's a Power Ranger doing here?" And then everybody catches up.
Why are you stopping me from recycling?
Right, which is his most important goal in life. But what's funny is she takes her super fast Zord.
I was gonna say, and everybody got there the same time.
Like 1 second later, she just wanted to be like the cool one. Like, by the way, I'm gonna find a reason to use my Zord, even though I totally don't need to.
Oh gosh, so annoying.
But also, did you notice that Sheriff Skyfire had to ride? He didn't have his own transportation, so he rode on the back. But earlier, we established that he could teleport whenever he wants.
He doesn't want to flex on people too hard right now.
Maybe he has got a limited power supply, and if he uses it too much, he'll start draining.
No, you're logicking this way too much.
Okay. Let's see. CM Lee says those Megazord armors are rad but poorly used. Yeah, I agree. I do, and that's true of a lot of the armor and the power-up modes that the Rangers get in the American series. A lot of them look really cool. Like I was a big fan of the Mega Mode ones from Samurai, for example, but they almost never use them out of the cockpit because, again, they don't have footage from Japan, so they'd have to film a new fight scene, which I understand is money, but they do that with civilians. Like, I think it would be good if every season, when they had the Mega Modes or Power Modes or whatever they call them in the cockpit, at least once have them be in a fight outside of the Megazord. Or maybe they get knocked out of the Megazord, as they sometimes do, and they're still wearing it, just to kind of establish it a little bit, because I feel like every season people are like, that's cool armor, how come they never use it, and behind the scenes we know why, but they could maybe throw a few bucks at one scene. Why not?
Ooh, I just thought of a cool way. Do you remember, this is a throwback, in one of the episodes of Zeo, where all of the Rangers grew to the size of a Zord and fought King Mundo?
Yes.
Mondo, not Mundo. I was thinking of that, but like they do it some way where it's like, oh, well, we'll be in these modes, but we have to channel the power of our Zord so we can fight in these close quarters.
Oh, right.
But then the Zords will be drained and we can't use them. Like something like that, easily done. And you're welcome, Hasbro.
And you're welcome, Hasbro.
Remember, they're tapping all of my devices. So all of these things, if we see them a year, 2 years down the line, it's like, oh, must have stole it from me.
I'm fine with that. That takes effort. Yeah, that does take effort. But we'll see. I mean, Hasbro so far seems to be stepping up and running with the ball, so to speak. We'll really see what happens next season. Although, knowing what we know about what's going to be season 2 of Beast Morphers, I was even talking once we get beyond Beast Morphers, but season 2 of Beast Morphers is already ramping up to them putting an effort. Although we had a similar thing happen with Ninja Steel, so there's good and bad.
Total side note.
Another one.
I somehow got spoiled for episode 18 of Beast Morphers.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, we both got spoiled for the same image?
Yeah, let's not... Well, we might not have got the same spoiler, but I saw an image for episode 18. Because for those that don't know, in America, next week, we're finally going to get episode 9. But throughout the world, they're on like episode 18. And so people throw up spoilers and stuff. And I don't mind people watching it and talking about it, but sometimes people put up images that you can't unsee. And now it's like, oh, great, there's a spoiler that, comes...
Were 3 people in the image that you looked at?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
I'm so excited and so frustrated at the same time.
Yep. Let's just for those that don't watch ahead on the bootleg stuff, be careful because
public service announcement one-shot time.
All right, let me give
you. If you love Beast Morphers and don't want to be spoiled, be very weary of which Power Ranger groups you follow closely outside Action Activate and different pages on Instagram, because I have gotten multiple screenshots, this one being the biggest culprit of like a bad spoiler, and It makes me really excited to watch, but at the same time, I'm trying to just go in open-minded and be like, wow, what a cool thing that I've never seen before. And now it's like, oh, wow, I guess I'm going to see it in 3 months.
Yep. And
over.
yeah. Me too, guys. Me too.
Oh,
Well, getting back to the episode that we want to talk
yeah,
about.
right? Woo! What are we on? Screenshot 6? Let's do it.
106, so effectively, yes.
There we go.
So he gets in, and he's all excited about meeting Power Rangers, and they find the bomb immediately, which is good. And this is interesting. He's like, we got to get rid of it, and he throws it, and then Haley uses, I guess she has like Earth-style jutsu for her sword, and she makes like a big hole in the ground, and the way they dispose of it is she throws it in the hole, and it explodes. A little bit odd. Usually they'd throw it up and shoot it or whatever. Fine, they want to let her have the hero moment. I thought the real hero moment, though, was that she made a point of covering Clint with her body and protecting him, which is good rangering, I think, especially because she sort of indirectly put him in danger there. And then there's the explosion, and he's like, boy, what a great day getting to meet Power Rangers and whatnot. And she says something heroic. I don't remember what she says here.
Oh, yeah. I think what they do is, as Rangers, they like bolster him up so he doesn't want to quit.
That they do talk him up a little bit here, but it's more at the end that they really save him, as because they save him as civilians, because it makes more sense, because they're the students. He has a problem with the students, so as the students, they have to convince him. Is the thing.
I guess. I just remember he's such a conundrum.
Could you check chat? I want to update a video thing here real quick.
I definitely remember that Zeo episode and great idea, Defender. Thank you, Matt Sinclair. Just steal. That's a point.
Ooh.
I really can't stand when people post spoiled images since they don't think of others who don't want spoilers. We agree wholeheartedly over at Action Activate. So if you ever want to post something that is kind of time sensitive where you don't think everybody's seen it on the Action Activate Facebook group, please put a huge spoiler warning and maybe a dummy image so that people who don't want to look.
Right, you can put the image in the comments if you have to, because really it's text. Spoilers are a bummer, but you could kind of avoid them a little bit. But if it's an image, you see it before you have a chance. So if you put it in the comments. Who else
is big on spoilers? Boom Studios.
Yeah.
Love to spoil their own comics. Like a day after one of them comes out, it's like, hey, you want to see stuff from the next issue? Whoop. It's like, I'm trying. I'm really trying to support you guys, and you're making it difficult.
I like that we're back to the formula of you being the angry, revved up one this time.
Just steal. Anyway, so we're talking to our boy Clint. What did we call him last week?
You called him something. I don't remember.
I don't remember. Officer Do No Harm.
That's there you go. Fine. That's his new name.
It was like Ranger Recycling Rick or something. I don't know.
There was definitely Ranger. It was definitely Ranger. Maybe it was just Ranger Rick.
Could have been. Officer Do No Harm,
Officer
also
Do
known
No Harm,
as Clint, is talking to the White Ranger, and then from there we move on to the next thing.
All right, let me move on to the next thing here.
Just because I'm having trouble remembering.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm having trouble getting this video. I have what I'm doing on the side here. Sorry if I'm a little distracted. Is last week I had done a Ninja Steel pink, and I had for those who don't know, this is my art up here, and I do a lot of Ranger art and stuff. And I'd done pink, and I did red this week, but I'm having trouble getting the video to load, which is why we just have the cycling things. But I don't want to be too distracted getting that to go. It'll be on the group later. Whatever. Red will come later. So the explosion goes, and then it fades, and we see the Mad Bomber. What bombs at midnight? And he's like, you. Now, the scene coming up I have a lot of issues with. I like that it looks like she's pushing him, but he gets out of the way. There was some good rangering, saving the civilian, giving him a boost, like you said. That's all fine. But then the villain is like, I'm going to blow all you guys up because I'm a big bomb man. That's what I do. Sherrif Skyfire, this was the villain he originally was going after. So he's like, it's you. I'm here
Him and his fingerless gloves are going after this criminal.
And his weird lips on the fabric. And he's basically, he's like, I'm going to put you back in prison where you belong. And at this point, the monster goes, Sherrif Skyfire, I'm not going back to prison. No way, no how. And he runs away. Why do I have a problem with this?
Because he just said he was going to blow everybody up, and now he's running away.
Yeah,
or if he saw
thank you for the sub,
Skyfire from a distance, there's no reason that he needed to look at all. There's so many plots.
Well,
there we go. Hang on, I forgot.
No, you didn't even really.
It's lightning.
You did not touch at all on the thing that's bothering me, though. You're not wrong with what you're saying. Basically, every monster that fights the Rangers essentially gets destroyed. They're not killed, they're defeated, destroyed, whatever you want to call it. And then they blow up big, and then they blow them up again. With very few exceptions, main characters somehow survive. But they're destroyed. They're obliterated from existence. That's what happens when you fight the Rangers. Now, he was willing to take that risk to fight the Rangers. Having seen others be defeated, he's like, well, I'll fight you and I'll blow you up and maybe I'll die. Sherrif Skyfire shows up, and he's not like, oh man, he's too powerful, now I might lose. He's like, I'm not going back to jail. Wouldn't you rather go to jail from Sherrif Skyfire than fight the Rangers and potentially die?
Maybe.
I would much rather fight Sherrif Skyfire than the Power Rangers, because he doesn't destroy monsters, he imprisons them.
I understand the bandit mentality from multiple forms of media where I've seen I'd rather die than go back to prison. I can't be locked up in a cage.
Right, but then if he's fighting the Rangers, so it is the thing where he would rather die fighting the Rangers.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
Ninja Steel, point.
Here's Arzuki. I'm here now. Thank you, Arzuki. I appreciate the sub. And then Matt Kennel is the tech is finally here. Although the tech that I need help with, she can't do because it's on my computer. So unfortunately, it just won't happen today.
That's okay.
All right. So he starts running away, and then we get a transition, a very, very clear transition between Sentai and Ranger footage, because they're in this parking lot by the recycling center. He starts running. They jump over him and they assemble with this nice, cool team shot, which I like. And then
with a big forest.
Yeah, with a forest. It's like, I guess we didn't see the forest. And then we flip around and look at him. He's in front of a stadium. What? How far did he run? How high did they jump? That was, and normally these things, it's like they went from one parking lot to another, or the building changed a little bit, but it's roughly the same location. And if you're a kid, you don't notice the signs change or whatever. But that is a big change. That is a big, big change. And I don't know, they could have maybe had a dimensional portal open, or I don't know what, but yeah, that was a big change. So then there's this awesome shot. I didn't get a good shot of it, where with an explosion, and they're just like, here we come. We don't care about your explosion.
Oh, I hate these explosion shots.
That you don't like? I mean, I didn't get a good clear shot of it.
No, I don't mind the actual explosions they do, but when it's clearly like CGI and they have like weird hang time, that's the stuff I don't like.
I guess, yeah.
They like literally float, and I'm like.
I mean, I prefer it when they do the wire work stuff, because then it at least sort of has some sort of physics on it. I agree. Let me check chat real quick.
Did he get launched sideways?
I think they're like rolling with the fall is what it is. Like they're landing. It looks like they're falling badly, but I think that's just they're about to roll.
It looks like a really cool action figure from this angle. That's why I'm looking so sideways.
I don't know what you mean.
From Sherrif Skyfire.
Yeah, why does he look like an action figure? Because he's on his side?
Because your head is blocking his body, and I only see his upper torso. And the proportion he is from the camera.
Let me see. I'll turn myself off. Hold on.
Because I can't see Brody. I just noticed his leg right now. Oh,
yeah, because you're blocking Brody.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, that wasn't really an important part of the shot. We got a little sidetracked, but let me see. I need to relabel some of this stuff. Because I want to.
Airzuki wanted to know what you broke today, and Matt Kendall Clare is blaming Evox per usual.
Wait, there. Now you can see it. So Brody is in basically the same position. Actually, if I turn you off, now everybody can see. It's not that interesting, but they were doing like a roll out of the jump, and they just look like they're falling. Or in your mind, they look like action figures, which I don't agree with at all. But
when you blocked it.
Okay.
Side note, for those watching on YouTube, if you prefer not seeing our faces, let us know in the comments.
But this I just thought was a cool shot where they all kind of came at him as one. Often it's like, I'll attack, then you'll attack. And, it ultimately didn't defeat him instantly, but it was a nice change of tactics. He does
the big Neo Matrix related shrug, and somehow,
And then the only one left still facing him one-on-one is Sherrif Skyfire, which makes sense because they're like actual enemies. And this right here I love. Sherrif Skyfire, he hits him and he gets knocked back, and as he's flying back, it's still in his holster. He's like,
I know, that part's really cool.
That was awesome, and that was like, he went up 20 cool points when he did that for me, and I was like, all right, I'm with you, Sherrif Skyfire. And he even says
that's why you have the fingerless gloves.
Yeah,
you can shoot from the hip.
I get it now. I need them. I'm in. But that actually does bring up something. Well, the two things. You were saying he looked like an action figure. They never made an action figure of him. I mean, Jiraiya, presumably in Japan, had action figures. But Ninja Steel and Dino Charge in the last couple of seasons have done a good job of giving us the heroes, the powered-up heroes, a lot of the villains, a lot of the side characters.
Probably a rights thing.
You might be right, because I was gonna say, because just making a unique mold is not above the capabilities of Bandai or Hasbro,
How do you
and
spell Jiraiya?
with a J-I-R something. Hey,
me
Van
check.
Illustration, welcome aboard. Thanks for the subscription. Nice
Hello,
of you to
thank
stop
you.
by. But yeah, so they never made a figure of him. I would assume you're right that it's a rights thing, because if it was just a cost thing, it would be better to make him than another random villain, because
True.
heroes sell better whether you like it or not. That's just the fact. And while I only bought the only figures I bought from Ninja Steel were gold. I bought all 3 versions of gold, in the American line anyway. I would have absolutely bought a Sheriff Skyfire figure, because he's pretty cool. He's based on Jiraiya, so like I bet you're right that it's rights, because it would have been a huge missed opportunity if they had the ability and did not.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
I'm looking right now, which is why I asked.
okay, well, the fight continues. And I thought this fight had interesting choreography compared to a lot of others. So they're fighting him. They get on either side of him, and we even get a split screen of they're all getting ready. The way they use the swords, if you don't know, they have a spin on it.
Oh,
which
the
is,
spin. Yeah,
yeah,
I actually do like the spin.
Yeah, and that's kind of a big trope of this. Like the ninja stars, some of their Zords, they transform them, they power up, so they'll like ninja spin, and they get like a fire power or whatever. So they're all powering up, and then they do like an earth style, again, like using really good teamwork here, and catch him. Well, I missed the shot, but they catch him with vines. So they use this like earth style, and then Gold hits him with lightning because he's held in place, can't get him. So just really good teamwork, and I could see why they definitely wanted to use this Sentai footage, because they don't always use every bit of Sentai footage, but like this was a good use of it, even if it did put them in a stadium. And then he gets hit, and basically the explosion somehow makes him land on the stage. Hold on a sec. You
One thing
okay?
I found funny. Oh, me?
Yeah. Are you still
What?
looking up Jiraiya stuff?
No, I haven't looked it up for a little bit.
Oh,
Was I
okay,
frozen?
okay. What's that?
Was I frozen? Is that why?
I couldn't tell if you were frozen or just...
Perplexed?
Yeah, perplexed.
One thing that did perplex me, if he had lightning powers and shot a man made of bombs.
Good question. And this is something that's come up... But I will say that is not a Ninja Steel thing. There are lots of monsters that have fought various Ranger teams that were part bomb, all bomb, made of bomb. That is not a unique trope to this. Here's my in-universe explanation.
Can you see my eye roll? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
You're not wrong, but that is not a Ninja Steel problem. That is a Power Rangers problem. But I will fix it with this. They're sentient beings for the most part, and even if they're robots. And while every part of his body can be a bomb, it isn't a bomb until he decides it's a bomb. Similar to how you have to arm a nuclear warhead or arm a landmine. Like if you take C4 and throw it around, it won't blow up. You have to put a detonator in it. So, just like my hand could become a fist, I don't run around punching people unless I want to. His body is not a bomb unless he wants it to be. And why would he want it to be all the time? Because then he would be destroyed by a single hit. So that
For
is...
those of you at home wondering, I've hung out with Gazbot many a time, and I've never seen him run around and punch anyone with his fist.
Right, see? So it's proof. You've proved my theory.
For the kids at home, violence isn't the answer.
So
remember this when you see this years from now.
Airzuki says Bigdawg is just thinking about life. All right, so they're
I'm just contemplating my mistakes of watching this episode.
So they're on stage, and then Sheriff comes in. Sherrif Skyfire rather comes in.
Fingerless Gloves McGee,
kind of like on a zip line with his fingerless gloves. But he sort of swings by. Like, it kind of doesn't make any sense. Even with the Sentai footage, I don't know if there was a scene of him climbing up to the Raptors and getting on a rope. But he's like, he hits him. He jumps backwards, shoots him. And then the bomb guy falls onto the stage, and Sheriff Skyfire is like already Errol Flynning his way on the rope. Like, the timeline does not make sense. And also seems like a really ineffective attack.
I chalked this up to a Batman kind of defense where he hits him. He is definitely stunned. He somehow, in this flurry, goes above him, drops down, pulls an I'm Batman, hits him again, and it's like,
okay,
where are you coming from?
Explain this. Now, who's the apologist, by the way? But explain this. After that happens, here comes Red, and there's a nice crotch shot cropping I did by accident. But he comes in doing the same thing, just sort of out of the rafters. Like, what? So, like, what did he? Why was he up there? Like, how did he get up there?
Because it is a common Spider-Man Batman crossover ninja attack.
Oh, I see.
I don't know.
I
It
do
was a
think
cool thing to do at the time.
this was a cool thing. The weird jump ins were kind of weird, but when they both kind of hit
That's
him,
such
and
a
then
good shot.
I love it. That should be like the cover of that DVD set. Like
Yeah.
yeah, very very cool. And then he fired the bomb guy whose name I keep forgetting fires a beam at him, which is weird since he's all bombs, but I guess he does have lasers. And Sheriff Skyfire is like, "I've got this," and he just starts blocking with his sword, which I think is awesome because he's all about the sword. For those that don't know, that's like his whole big thing.
Yeah.
And so he reflects it back at him. And then he gets his like final strike, basic, like he cuts the cut scene, I should say. And
Yeah.
actually, if
this
you notice,
is for sure American.
no, you think it is?
Yes.
Why?
Look at that. That is clearly American footage.
What? Why? That's not clearly American footage.
Because it looks the same as when they have the weird mega super modes and do their final strike thing.
Yeah, but they do final strike in the Sentai as well.
Yeah, but
I think you're thinking some footage is American that isn't, because that sort of ending, now we're in our super attack mode, isn't like always a cockpit mode thing. They do that like in the ground battles as
No,
well.
I'm aware.
I don't know, but I certainly did not think, oh, this is American footage.
I thought some of it was American footage.
This is what I thought, and having not seen Jiraiya the show, that he has this final attack in the show, and when they brought him into the Sentai, he did his final attack in the Sentai, and that's what we're seeing. If this is American only footage, then why? I mean, he must have had this moment in the Sentai. Why would they refilm his final attack moment? I would bet money.
Maybe it's more explicit in the Sentai, and they like kiddied it up. In the
what I
American.
think you're doing right now is saying, "Hey, you might be right, but instead of just agreeing, I'm going to find a way that maybe somehow I'm a little bit right."
Look at how distracting his fingers are in this fingerless
You. All right, that's me.
Fine, you
Ninja
get it. Say
Steel.
it. Say it.
Ninja Steel.
There you go. Okay.
Erzuki says, I've seen Gaz run around and punch nothing in particular with his fist. I do punch, like just now, nothing in particular, but that was by choice that I activated that. Matt Claire says, I believe it was Blammo for the monster. That sounds right. And if it's not, it's correct now. So anyway, he does his final.
A toy company?
It either is or it was, unlike Ren and Stimpy.
Okay.
It's either a real or fictional toy company. So he does his
Anyways.
final. He doesn't call it Final Strike. He calls it like Saber Slash or Skyfire Assault or whatever. And it's pretty awesome. He uses his sword.
Fingerless Fury!
I wish it was that. I haven't watched a lot of Jiraiya, but I have watched some Gavon, and it's very similar where he's got like the laser sword basically.
Mhm.
So he blasts him, and it seems like he's done. And if it was Jiraiya's show or Sheriff Skyfire show, he would be done. But because it's the Rangers, it's like, oh, good job. Now I'll finish him off. He goes. The Red Ranger goes into what do they call it? Lion Fire
Lion
mode.
armor.
Now this is an example of where this must have been in the Sentai, because you several times have seen the Lion Fire armor on the Rangers, not just him, because others can use it as well, out in fighting mode. And so if they just had a scene like this with the American, that's all I'm saying. That would be good. So he's about to do his final strike because for some reason Jiraiya's wasn't enough, and he's like, "Here, use mine." Which is nice, and I get the idea of like, but it's like you just used it and it didn't beat him. What? Like clearly we need a.
With our powers combined.
And that's what it is. And like, so I'm nitpicking, but I do think it's cool that then he comes in with the double, like dual wielding double slash of both his Lion Fire, blade as well as Sheriff Skyfire's blade. Yeah. And he gives them a nice big, and they each get their own kind of hit. And you can see here he's got them both. I took a lot of screenshots because it was hard to capture, but it was a cool moment. And again, I'm pretty sure this is all Japanese. I understand why you might think it's American, but I think the American stuff they do is trying to match this style where they kind of go into another dimension. It's very, very anime, very manga, where it's like we're in another dimension. There's just like lines and energy because it's sort of taking, like in real life it'd be like hit done and it would be over, and they need that sort of fake time space energy to like show all the action. Excuse me. So then finally, now he's about to blow up. And now you could argue that he's lost control over his bombs, and they're about to blow up. Although every monster seems to have at least one bomb in them because they always die by blowing up. He blows up. Yeah, and he's holding Skyfire's sword there because it looks more like a traditional katana as opposed to like the powered up plasticky. I don't know what I want like this. It's like a powered up plasticky one. You play it like a clarinet. Doodle-doo-doodle-doo-doodle-doo. I don't know what a clarinet sounds like, apparently.
Apparently it sounds like a synthesizer.
Doodly doodly doo doo doo. Well, don't knife flutes sound like synthesizer? So he's just like diddly 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 doo.
What I've just learned
Yes.
is you need to commit to everyone right now that you're going to make a Power Ranger band based on people with instruments. I know that you in the past have talked about your hesitation. I think now is the time that you really need to make a commitment to your fans about what art you're going to do over other art that you have backlogged.
Yeah, he's trying to rile me up because he's trying to
No,
get me to
I
get.
am successfully riling you up. Don't say I'm trying.
Okay,
You know that if I grate enough, it will explode and happen.
I'm gonna go to a two-shot. Putting aside my fury, what Rangers have musical instruments as weapons? We got the Dragon Dagger flute. We've got the Gold Ranger from this season has his electric guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only two I could think of off the top of my head. I know there was singing in Wild Force that Princess Shayla did, but I don't think anybody had an instrument. She would just sing.
I mean, if you want to have the White Ranger's baton as a microphone, that works for me.
The White Ranger from but that's not a microphone. Oh, no, but you know who does have a microphone? Cam Green from Samurai, from Ninja Storm. It's kind of supposed to be for his helicopter, but it is a microphone. So he could be the singer. So that's 3.
All right, that's 3.
The drumming is going to be the hard one. The percussion section.
Yeah. Who else? Let's see.
Doodly-doo.
Turbo didn't. In Space didn't.
You keep thinking. I'm gonna go to the next slide.
In Space you could have the little satellite dish be like reception or of some sort.
You're reaching. That's
Yeah,
reaching. That's
really
more like
hard.
somebody in the background. But I mean, the average band you need some kind of percussion, some kind of drums, something.
You could have the little communicator thing that Phantom Ranger used as part of the like DJ booth.
You know, I was about to make the art, but there's not enough Rangers, so now we got to move on.
Oh no!
All right, so
if
we
you
go
guys
back up.
have any that use musical instruments in both the Sentai or in Power Rangers, please put it on the Action Activate group or in the comments below. Very interesting.
I would be interested to see what else people come up with, but I'm interested in actual instruments that are weapons, not this kind of looks like a trumpet, so let's pretend like not.
We have 3 so far that are confirmed.
Yes. So we go back up to the Galaxy Warriors ship, which is also the game show, and it's time to gigantify, which is not what Cosmo sounds like. Campbell Cooley, doing a much better Cosmo than me, says gigantify. The beam comes down from the ship. I do think that's a cool ship. The CGI could stand to be a little bit more rendered, but the actual design I like, and I like the way it has like a billboard on top advertising.
True.
And so he gets hit with the gigantify beam. He's a big man, and now he's Sherrif Skyfire is like, thanks for using my sword, even though you didn't need it. I appreciate you making me feel like I'm part of the crew. And what are we going to do about this? And they're like, don't worry, we've got huge swords. You could just stand down here and be our cheerleader. And he's like, that sounds great. Again, I'm doing what you did and giving him more emphasis.
Let me go hang out with another fine citizen we've worked with this evening.
Clint.
Officer Do No Wrong.
Ranger reputable. So they all put in their Blaze Megazord spinners. Shuriken, and here come a bunch of chunks. So like that middle chunk, I think maybe is supposed to be a turtle, and then there's like a panda chunk.
They're all stupid.
They're all chunks. The color scheme is.
They're all dumb.
I think what I like about it is that the color scheme kind of matches, and then they become the Blaze Megazord, which I do think is a decent enough looking Megazord. That's not the best shot of it there, but that's what they're going. Then they all get their cool armor that usually is unfortunately not used outside of the cockpits.
Flavortown Megazord is assembled.
Here he is. Okay, so. Because he looks like he's like a Chinese restaurant or something. Is that what you're saying?
No, because Guy Fieri is all of the
But
flames
you think
everywhere.
the original Megazord from this season looks better, where it's like a mech in a seat with like a head on top of it, and then like arms that don't match?
100%.
Well, that makes sense because I have a better aesthetic sense than you do, and you know,
being colorblind and not artistically inclined.
I definitely do seem to like the Zords that are more cohesive and have a more unified sort of theme or color or whatever, and you definitely seem to like bricks on lasers on armor, and
I wouldn't. What's an example of a brick on brick Megazord that I like?
Almost anyone that goes like beyond Ultra Zord version, where it's like we got powered up and we mix with the other Zord, and then we put another one and like 15 others, and you usually like the powered up version better.
No, like RPM Zords, when they go like huge enormous, I hate.
Okay, so do I. But RPM Zords I don't like them ever, even though it's one of my favorite seasons. I don't think those Zords are ever good.
I don't like the Megaforce Zords like that.
I don't mind the Megaforce Zord. Oh, when they're super, yeah.
Yeah. See, you don't have a good example.
I'm going with the idea that Some of my favorites are like in space, where it's basically one ship, and so it's very cohesive. It's just blue. It looks like an old-fashioned Transformer, and I love it.
Cool.
But you tend to like the Ultra Zord and above. And on average, I prefer the vanilla. Once they get to Ultra Zord, I think they start to look too bulky and goofy.
I think
that's not
the original Ultra Zord is awesome.
I don't. When they get on Titanus, I'm always like, why are they like? I guess does it give more firepower? But they're just like rolling, and it's like, and to prove it, I have the legacy of everything. I have the legacy or Soul Chogokin of Mighty Morphin Season 1 and 2, everything, but I have no version of Titanus. And I don't want a version of Titanus because I would never put them in that configuration. Because he's just Titanus. He serves no purpose. He just shows up and they kind of go slow on him.
No, he is the original Mighty Morphin MacGuffin.
Right. No, and credit where credit's due. He's one of the originals, and I don't begrudge people for liking him, but
But you're wrong, and I hate you.
But I don't think I don't like the way it looks. It's not my taste. I prefer to have the standard Megazord and the standard Dragon Zord, the standard Tiger Zord, all separately. I think they look better. I'm also not a big fan of the Sentinel, the Knight version of Dragon Zord when he combines.
That one's not my favorite.
Anyway, this is a matter of opinion, but it's also just factual that we both have. You tend more towards the Ultra. I tend more towards the Vanilla, on average. That is not a dispute. That is just stating our opinions.
I think there's one that is kind of vanilla and kind of not that we both agree looks great, and that's Shogun Zord.
Yes. Oh, I love Shogun Zord. That's one of my favorite of all time.
Yeah, he's super cool.
Okay.
Do you have a Shogun Zord?
No.
Go get one.
I have. Well, I'm waiting for them to release a legacy style version of it.
Keep waiting.
Matt Kendall says technically Cam had not just the microphone but also a guitar, and others could use the guitar. Not to spoil anything, but he had to throw that out there. I didn't remember him having a guitar, but I think you're right. But because of how I am, I would not allow a different ranger to
would not double up.
Yeah, he could sing and play guitar, but handing his guitar to someone else is like, nah. That's just my own weirdness that I wouldn't like that. So now what's going on here though in the fight? Getting back to the episode.
Yeah, right.
The bomb. What did we say his name? Bombardier. Blammo is fighting him.
Captain Kaboom.
And instead of throwing bombs or doing anything else, he does this weird tactic where he sort of jumps on his back and is pushing him into the ground, which makes no sense. It makes no sense with his character because he's all about bombs. And it's not like he's super heavy. He's like roughly the same weight as any other monster. And he's not like there's no reason why his weight would be pushing it down. There's no rockets. And the Megazord just starts sinking into the ground. And the only explanation is like, I'm going to push you into the ground. And it starts happening. It makes no sense for the type of character he is. The physics don't add up, even in Power Rangers world.
He might be really dense.
I mean, he's stupid, I agree, but I don't... Yeah, it's weird, and I don't know if we're missing something from the Sentai, or it was weird in the Sentai, or maybe there's some Japanese cultural thing, like bombs be heavy, and like, I don't know. It made no sense. But then, to make matters worse, we cut to Sherrif Skyfire, and he's like, oh, Rangers, come on! Because he can't join in the fight, so he literally becomes a cheerleader. And now this is obviously...
angry cheerleader. He's not a cheerleader. He's that mom on the sidelines at some, 5-year-old soccer game that thinks they can run the show and coach.
Yeah.
Ninja Steel.
Mechanical Clear says, I usually prefer the humanoid Zords. The Shogun Megazord was a pretty cool one. Yeah, and I do like the Shogun Megazord. I actually prefer the Thunder Megazord. I realized when we were talking about it. I was thinking we were talking about Thunder Megazord because that is one of my contenders for all-time favorite. Shogun Megazord I still like a lot, but Thunder Megazord is top 5 without even thinking about it.
I still need a Shogun.
Wait, you need a Thunder.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay.
Now I'm confused.
Yeah, so he's cheering. We get this shot of a cockpit, which I don't really like, an American style. And the American style cockpits, a lot of times, the last few have had this sort of trope of sort of a platform in a room.
They just kind of stand there and their actions cohesively make things happen.
And I don't love that. And it can be done well if you take it this is all about the martial arts connecting, or it's an animal spirit bond, or but by default, you should have some buttons or something, or I don't know. The fact that this is the 3rd or 4th season in a row almost that we've seen this, because Samurai was very similar. They had a little bit of a cockpit. a control panel, I should say, Dino Charge was almost exactly this.
Yup.
I don't remember what Mega Force and Super Mega Force had, but I think they had more of a cockpit. But
They had nothing because no one cared about those seasons.
I think they might not have had super modes because American only super modes because they already had their super modes and then Super Mega Force became the super mode. But the point is, I'm tired of this. Do something different. Beast Morphers didn't do it, so that's probably why I like Beast
They
Morphers.
might. I'm not
No,
sure.
they're in the cockpits.
Oh,
remember?
the cockpit mode. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and that's what I'm
I thought you
saying.
meant the dumb modes.
Oh, I don't care if they get an American only power up. I have no issue with that one way or the other.
Yep.
It's just about this cockpit it just looks like a dance studio. It's
Speaking of
lazy.
American only power ups, I hate that chainsaw sword. I don't remember if I said it last week.
I don't remember either. Here's the thing. I love it as a weapon. I
hate it.
Fine. This is where it's weird because you like over the top Megazords, I like cheesy gimmicky stuff, and like I almost bought it for myself. I didn't. But I love that it's this crazy chainsaw sword with all the stars in it. But I want to see him using that to fight monsters on the ground like a chainsaw sword. What makes no sense is when he holds it up and the Megazord swings. Or maybe the Megazord shoots a laser. Doesn't make any sense. That's the same thing in Beast Morphers too. Where he fires the chin cannon and then the sword comes. Yeah.
Slash!
If you're shooting a gun, the Megazord should shoot a gun. If you're using a sword, the Megazord should use a sword. This is basic stuff. But anyway, so as in a vacuum, I love the over-the-top ridiculous design of the chainsaw sword. As a weapon that somehow activates the Megazord, it makes no sense.
Yep.
Let's see. Mechanical Claire says Megaforce had the Sentai cockpits for both Megaforce and Super Megaforce. Okay, well that makes sense. Why?
Wait, I think you missed a comment right before that.
What? Go ahead. Read it.
Nice comparison, Defender. Oh, thank you.
Comparison to what?
Whatever we were talking about, Zords.
You don't even know. You don't even know. All right, so the Blaze Megazord is being pushed down, but then it's like, no, here's some green fire, blaze power, pushes them off. Last minute Hulkamania coming out, and then they all get charged up. Now, while I do defend the Blaze Megazord as being the better design, this is stupid. I can't defend this. Part of the Blaze Megazord, and it's kind of fun in the toy, is the chest has these missiles that go choo 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 rapid fire, and they're colored missiles, which is kind of cool. But if you look at the missiles closely, they're colored the colors of the Rangers. Okay, it's like their energy. No, they are the Rangers. So the toy shoots out little mini versions of the Rangers because in the show, the Rangers get shot out of the chest of the Megazord as missiles at an enemy so strong they needed to have a Megazord to fight it.
So here is why. And the screenshot proves it.
Mhm.
That is an over-the-top, goofy Sentai thing because they are not in their weird, goofy, like
American power. Yeah, they should have the armor on. They take the armor off to be shot out of the Megazord. No, it is a Sentai thing. I don't know if it makes more or less sense in Sentai and Japanese culture.
Oh, I love it in that.
It's so funny how much we are disagreeing.
Having not seen it and having not seen anything of
Right.
Ninja, I can justify everything that they've done that makes no sense in the American
Right.
because in the Japanese one, they just own that it doesn't make sense. Why is our Zord a dog, a truck, a skateboard, and a robot
Right.
that sits in the bigger robot and controls it? Why? Because it does.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of it. I've mainly seen the crossover with Dokuger, and I know that part of it is we're ninjas that don't hide in the shadows, and we're like showy and whatever. So it might be part of that. I don't mind that it's over the top and ridiculous. Again, I shouldn't worry about physics for Power Rangers, but it just seems like they established that you're a Ranger, you get in the Zord, you get in the Megazord, the powers go up and up and up, and here they are being fired at it. They're being fired out of a chest cannon at a monster, and that's somehow more powerful than the Megazord using its sword or something.
Only thing that bothers me is that they didn't shoot American green screen footage of them in their dumb power-up mode.
I agree with that. I do think they should have the armored modes for sure. So they land, they defeated him. He blows up. There's the Blaze Megazord hanging out looking better than the first Megazord. And Sherrif Skyfire is like, I think you've learned a valuable lesson, and I'm going to go leave.
By theory, should not design your Megazords.
Yeah, and then look, he teleports away because he could teleport.
Only sometimes, though. Only when it's convenient to the plot.
Anyway, so then we get back to the school, and wouldn't you know it, Clint is still thinking about quitting, and but the Power Rangers kind of boosted him up. But then they're like, hey, look, here's the recycling bin from the beginning, and we want to show you something. And he's like, oh, this seems nice. and then they instantly put it in the wrong side. And he's like, "This is horrible. Why would you bring me? I gave you a ticket about this. The whole episode has been about this. I'm crying in my pants right now. I'm gonna take off my clothes and go running wild because this is horrible." But then look, they've modified it in such a way. Did we miss
it? It will shame you if you put something in the wrong thing.
She put it in trash when it was recycling, and it goes, recycling, boop, and it shoots up. And I thought I got a shot of this where it pops out, and he's happy. No, I totally did not get a shot of it. Okay, so I'm sorry I missed the shot. But what happens is it pops up, and she catches it, and he's like, "Oh, that's awesome." A couple things I hate about this. One,
everything.
Well, I have no problem with them trying to help this guy and convince him to stay and doing a nice thing for him. That's all Power Rangers. That's all good. What I don't like about this is, again, super science, that they could put something in here and it detects that it's the wrong thing and rejects just that one thing, not the whole thing. That makes no sense. Forget it. Doesn't make sense. Then she catches it. Great, because she knew it was coming and she's a Power Ranger. Anyone else, you throw it in there and it's like wrong, and it's just going to shoot it out.
That would be the greatest prank to see.
Just garbage flying all over the place, maybe hitting you in the face. So it only works in this one controlled environment. So the thing that they made to make him happy is going to make a bigger mess later on.
I wish it alley-ooped it to the other side.
That would be great. They're making up technology that doesn't exist anyway. Why not do that?
Exactly.
Yeah. So he's happy. And hey, you did this for me. And they're like, yeah, sorry, we've been giving you a hard time. We realize you're just trying to do the right thing and blah, 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 blah. And so he's like, okay, I'm going to stay. So there was another episode I watched recently from this season where a very similar thing happened where they had to save another teacher's job who had fallen asleep on the job because Preston accidentally made him go to sleep with his magic. And then there was a whole big convoluted plot where, he made a mistake and then the principal made a mistake. And so then they rehired her. In both cases, it was their fault the teacher was going to be fired or quit, and then they had to save it. So twice these Rangers almost ruined someone's life and then had to fix it at the last second. So
all I'm hearing is the Rangers just give everyone in authority Stockholm Syndrome, where they never want to leave the school. You're going to be here for life.
But we'll make you think you want to be. Arizuki said, this is going back. I think you missed a comment complimenting me. That was the Bigdawg saying, yeah.
Yes.
And then Mechanical Air says, when you were comparing Skyfire's cheering to the mom. Oh, there you go. Yeah. That was the compliment.
See? Told you.
I support that. I support that. Okay, so now this guy comes in. He's the one actor that's allowed to use his New Zealand accent. He's like, I think you need to come over here and look at
my blueberries.
Come look at what's going on. There's a problem over here.
There's some problems with
and
the
so
blueberries.
Then Victor and Monty, in the first half of this episode, in our first episode, they
stole everything.
They stole everything. They became security guards, which they shouldn't have, and abused the power instantly. And they stole everything on that table, and people just let them get away with it. But then finally, the security guard is getting called, but before they do, they had stole these 2 blueberries from that kid.
Blueberries.
And so they're like, let's eat these blueberries. Don't mind if I do. There's only 2. They're huge. 1 each. Great. Let's eat them. So they put them in their mouths. At the same time, here comes Sheriff Skyfire as a Clint. Wait, what is his name? Ranger Rick.
Officer Do No Wrong.
Officer Do No Wrong. Ranger Rick, yeah. And then we get this guy who is the New Zealand student, and they've all been stolen from, and then the Rangers, obviously. And he's like, hey, that's my stuff. And they're like, ooh, sorry, we had them. But they also start going like, and not feeling particularly good. And
this is the dumbest
this is
slapstick comedy I've seen on Power Rangers arguably ever.
Have you watched, how much of Ninja Steel have you watched?
At least half.
Okay, because I will say, while I generally will defend Victor and Monty as the actors doing a good job and them getting a little bit of a bad rap, the part I think that kills Victor and Monty is this stuff, this cartoonish slapstick that makes no sense. And this is coming up going to be a really good example of it, but I'm not even sure it's the worst example of it, because there was another episode where they like flew off in outer space because they were like farting or something. Like there's been several.
That sounds better than this already.
Yeah. Well, so they're getting yelled out, but meanwhile they don't feel good and they start getting these things. And the guy says, "Hey, those weren't normal blueberries. I'm working on like food for astronauts or something, but I haven't worked all the kinks out." And the kink he hasn't worked out. Arizuki loves my good New Zealand accent. And so they start turning blue. Okay, a little over the top, but believable. I'm
that
on
part
board.
I was totally fine.
Totally fine. And then bloop, bloop, they turn into big
Violet Beauregards.
Yes, and that was a deliberate reference to Willy Wonka, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The old movie. I don't know if they did it in the new one. I didn't see the new one, but the idea that you eat the candy. You're not
I think
supposed
they did.
to. Okay, so it's a nod to that. Fine. They even say, "Oh, I think instead of calling him Victor, we should call him Violet." Ha ha ha! Because Violet Beauregard was the name of the child in that movie that ate the candy and turned into a big blueberry like this. But that movie was like fantasy comedy. I mean, arguably this is fantasy too, but like that movie was full of ridiculous candy stuff like that, and that was sort of on theme. But here's again, they got turned into these giant things. Everyone laughs. Now, presumably they're like, "Oh, we know this is temporary and they'll be okay." But they should be horrified at, like what just happened? Oh my God, this is nuts. And this is another example of like horrible super science gone wrong at this high school.
Yes.
Which brings us to the end of the episode. Now,
Before we're there,
Okay,
I have
go ahead.
some
Yes.
issues that I need to bring
oh,
up.
I have lots of issues, but feel free.
Yes. So for one, I love how the guy's like, "Oh, these aren't working right." My first thought was, who else have you been testing these
Yes,
on?
I'm hoping he ate them like himself at least. Was like,
Or,
I will
like,
try
if he
these.
gave them to animals, which I'm not condoning in this,
Right.
I also think like, okay, you got a bunch of blueberry animals. Also, going with the weird magic science that we're going for this, why are their clothes perfectly round around them and their arms are just shrunken?
I assume.
I hate that.
I assume
hate
that
it.
they were wearing like Mr. Fantastic unstable molecules that could stretch. But no, you're right. They should have bust out of their clothes. Or they should be like straining to hold on. But again, because it's a cartoon, it's not normal slapstick. They've become a cartoon, and that's happened several times in this season
Which I hate.
with Victor and Monty, and I also dislike it very much. Erzuki says, "Well, that's also send up to Willy Wonka. That's what she looked like." Well, yeah, no, it's literally what happened to Willy Wonka.
Yes.
But why are they doing it here? It's out of place. Let me look at my notes real quick because a few things. One big note I had as I was watching this episode, but I've thought of it before. Putting aside any problems with the show that people might have, this might sound weird, but my biggest problem with the show is the high school. More than anything else, the super science that is continually on display, and the weird way it's set up where they could bring dogs in and they could take breaks and they seem to come and go as they please, which is not how high school works. If they made this college, and specifically a super tech college, so they're all a little bit older, so they have more freedom, and there's the commons, and they have different classes at different times. It's college. And they're all there to study science, and it's like cutting edge, sort of above what we have now, but it's supposed to be, because these are like, all geniuses in their own field, because they make Power Rangers geniuses often anyway. And so Preston's like a genius at science magic, and, then all these like failed goofy science experiments suddenly start to make sense, because that's the trope that they're in a super science college. And it doesn't fix everything in the entire show, but it would fix a lot of the things that bother me. Is don't change anything, just say they are at a super science college. And that fixes a lot for me, including this scene.
So what you're saying is, if a group of Rangers had some weird revolutionary science experiments, like a bike that ran on MorphX that they would, create with the right parameters and everything. Oh wait, Beast Morphers is already fixing this.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yes.
Hasbro.
Yes. And that's
Thank
exactly my
you.
point, is that they are in a special, I was going to say society, but they're in a special company, they're in a special facility where they're experimenting with super science, and it makes sense, and yes. Erzuki says, but they live in a world where there's giant monsters, magic, and other stuff just in the regular planet. I don't think there needs to be that much exposition to suspend my disbelief. Well, my disbelief needs more suspension than yours, Erzuki, I'm sorry to say.
Same with mine.
If it was... Here's the thing. There are other things they could have done better, the writing or the jokes, or like there are other things that could fix it and make it better. But I'm saying a blanket thing that would make everything more palatable to me is just say that they're in a super science high school. Because while there are giant robots and monsters and stuff, the average person doesn't have that. Just like in like the Marvel movies. Yeah, there's Spider-Man and there's Tony Stark and stuff, but the average person lives the way we do. They would still be impressed to see an Iron Man armor, or they'd be impressed to see, Rocket Raccoon show up. And that's how I imagine the Power Rangers world, where there are these things in the world, but the average person doesn't have access to them on a regular point. Matt Kendall Clare says, good point, guys, about the super science stuff. Thank you, Matt Kendall Clare. Ninja Steel. Sheriff Skyfire figured they should have had. Oh, one thing that we didn't mention, and we're getting really close to the end here. Sheriff Skyfire, when he showed up in the last episode, and they're like, oh, we're filming a TV show, and he's like, I only watch cooking shows.
God.
I loved that line because it made no sense. I don't know if it's a nod to the character Jiraiya or if they're just like, we want to make this guy as boring as we can, and so like I only watch the news. No, that's still too interesting. I only watch cooking shows. I thought that was a fun line. Via Bogard. Yeah, I think that's it for me on this episode. Unless you got anything else you want to throw out, we'll go to news.
No, I just took a look again. Looks like, as far as I can tell, there aren't really any toys outside of. I think there was a Ranger. No, there wasn't a Ranger key, and yeah, nothing really for Skyfire. There's one toy that you like build around him, but it's really old. As a whole, didn't love this episode. I had a lot of fun talking about it with you.
Right.
Not once, but twice.
Right. Same.
But this just makes me so much more amped for Beast Morphers this weekend.
I agree. It definitely, whatever you think of this season, Beast Morphers is doing a lot of things right that they did not do in Ninja Steel. So that's the positive spin we could put on it, is that things are going in a really good direction. Let's go to news and then we'll wrap up. The big news, which you already touched upon, which is, let me get this open. Sorry. Robert Axelrod, unfortunately, has died. Here we go. For those that don't know, he was 70 years old. This is what the man looks like when he. Oh, that's the Bigdawg back there. This is what the man looks like when he's not in makeup. Apparently, and here the reason I bring this up, not because like we already talked about this, but apparently he used to go by Axel Roberts early in his career, so he was credited with a lot of different things. And when I was looking through his IMDb and a couple things. He was a bass player in the 70s, and he did a lot of sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. He did a lot of face acting. He was in the movie The Blob and a few other things as a face actor. But he has done tons and tons of voice work going all the way back to the 70s. And he was Brainy Smurf in the Smurfs. He's done some work for Lupin and like all kinds of stuff, which I had no idea about. He was in Robotech, like really, really old stuff, all the way up to like early, like 90s Transformers and Digimon. He did a lot for. So while we all know him as Lord Zed and Finster and Eye Guy, he did a lot more than that. And I kind of knew that, but when I was looking through it, it just made me realize how much he had done. I just felt like that was worth bringing up, for those that didn't know.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing also.
Oh, I just accidentally hung up on the Bigdawg. No, you don't get to tell us, Bigdawg. You don't get to tell us. I'm gonna quick bring him back. Sorry about that. I was closing the window behind, and I forgot. Evox, you're in my brain right now. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get him back. We're almost done too. I almost made it to the end without a problem. All right, I'm going in. Sorry, it's taking me. I'm getting some lag here. What does this say? Airzuki, you're doing great, so shut up. You jerk. Oh, you're supposed to be supporting me. You're supposed to be giving me tech support, not sarcasm. Oh, boy. Now I got to find the link. Okay, I'm opening the link, despite Airzuki giving me anti-support. Okay, joining the Hangout. Oh, hey, look. Hey, buddy.
Oh, you're the worst.
Sorry I hung up on you. Yeah, I meant to do this. See how I just turned... you were really big in the background. I meant to turn it off like that, and I didn't. I turned the whole thing off. But now you're not showing up in that little area, so let me do this. All right, I'm just going to go to a two-shot. Nope, there you go.
What was the last thing you heard of me?
You literally said... Were you talking for a while?
I talked for a little bit, and then I realized...
Basically, I was like, unless you have anything else to say, and you said something like, well, I have this to say, and then I hung up. So I apologize to everybody. I meant to close the big window, not the phone call that we are on.
The big window, not the Bigdawg.
Correct. So I'm giving you a one shot. Whatever you're going to say, see if you could just kind of summarize it real quick.
Okay. So the Power Rangers Legacy War mobile game, in honor of Robert Axelrod, will have events with Lord Zed being predominantly featured for the next 2 weeks in his honor.
That's cool.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Lord Zed is in the comics right now. I am caught up on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers number 42, which I recommend. It's really cool. Apparently, Go-Go Power Rangers is tying in as well, which I need to catch up on, but is also cool. And it's one of those things where I feel kind of lame because in the current arc, they're referencing something that happened 1 or 2 arcs ago in Go-Go Power Rangers. Where I'm like, oh man, like I wish it didn't super spoil it, but like it it was
well,
one of those. I'm like, oh, now I need to go back and read.
That's
So,
good for me to know too, because I'm more behind than you are, but I also stopped
Mhm.
reading Go-Go after Shattered Grid, and now
Mhm.
I'm like, well, maybe when I'm catching up, I should catch up on Go-Go as well. If they, because it seemed like they were going to stop tying in together, but if they're going to keep tying in together,
Yeah,
then
no, like I looked, and the next 2 issues for sure have the same thing up top saying necessary evil,
right.
which is the same story arc. So I'm like, well, good on you guys. Ryan Parrott, as far as I know, is writing both, and I really love his writing right now. He's a cool guy. I got a chance to meet him at Power MorphCon last year,
Oh, okay.
because he wrote all, if not most, of the original Go-Go Power Rangers, and he's a cool guy. And his big thing is he says that he writes certain things for the cosplay. Like,
Oh, that's cool.
he came up with Ranger Slayer, as far as I know, and the Gravesword because he's like, oh, like I really want to see a cosplay of that. And certain other things in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers right now, I'm pretty sure he came up with
Just
for
to
the
see.
same reasons.
That's
Yep.
awesome. I have you in the two shot. For some reason, when I go to the Ranger show, you are invisible, so we can still hear you but not see you here. So I'm gonna stick with the two shot because we're about to be done anyway.
Yeah.
So that's all you have for Ranger news, though?
What else do I have? If you are having trouble with Goldar, I've heard more people are getting him intermittently at GameStop.
He has shown up at some where you don't need a pre-order too, right?
Yeah, it's super annoying.
There's a lot of drama with GameStop specifically, unrelated to this, like their
Mhm.
business model. There's rumors they're gonna be closing a lot of stores and things. They might be restructuring, going out of business, whatever. So when it comes to this, like Psycho Blue, I put a pre-order down on them and I put my $10 down. I think it only had to be 5. I'm now wondering, like, ooh, should I have done that? Because what if they go out of business? Do I lose my money? But
Yeah.
I also, if I don't have a pre-order, I might not get it because they've been so weird. Even if I have a pre-order, so
Mhm.
pre-order at your own risk is what we're saying.
Yeah. I'm not going to pre-order anymore just because I'm going to risk it. And I pre-ordered and paid in full for Goldar and still don't have him. And I did it for Zed and got him like 2 months after everybody else.
I did it for Zed and got him late as well, but I never once saw Zed show up in a store. So if I hadn't pre-ordered him, I would not have got him.
I think I've seen him once or twice.
But I won't be pre-ordering anything that's not an exclusive. But if it's an exclusive, I mean, where else am I going to get it?
True.
So,
one thing I
yeah.
didn't share with you
Yes, sir.
is I stopped at a Walgreens sometime 2 weeks ago, I want to say,
Mhm.
and I found a Beast Morphers Red Lightning Collection figure.
Mhm.
So it seems like the trend is there's one figure
Yes.
per Walgreens. Is what it seems like.
I've noticed that too. Walgreens does seem to be the place to go. Up until recently, I don't think anyone's found any other than at Walgreens.
Yeah.
But I did see a Beast Morphers Red one at GameStop. GameStop,
Okay.
it's $2 more.
Mhm.
But if you can't wait, or if you catch a sale, it might be worth checking out. Also, Walgreens, if you shop there a lot, like I'll buy milk there sometimes, or whatever. If you get one of those Walgreens cards, you could save up points. So I bought not a Power Rangers figure, but I bought a Tron figure the other day, and I got $5 off because of my Walgreens points. So it's weird, but you can actually get discounts on their toys by shopping at Walgreens. So it's just something else to think about. But definitely worth checking out for the Lightning line. Check out GameStop. It's still in business as of now.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
But yeah, we're gonna get going next week. We should have a new episode of Beast Morphers for the first time since basically we started the show. We basically started the show, said, "Hey, we're gonna start and just run through the first season of Beast Morphers and go from there." Then it became a thing where, oh, we have months and months and months of creating Power Rangers content without the show, but we're getting back to our roots. So that's the good news. The bad news is we might miss an episode or two after that because of various life events going on. There will be episodes. They might not be live. They might not be able to review the new Beast Morphers episodes as they come out. So next week we'll be back as normal live. We will be on Twitch 5 Monday, and then we'll be in the evening on YouTube Tuesday, and we will be reviewing the next episode of Beast Morphers. After that, something will be up, but I don't know what right now.
Yep.
All right. So with that, I will say I am Gazbot.
I am the Big Dog Defender.
And
To the
to the
power.
power. Thanks, guys.
See you guys later.
Have a good one. I always say I'm gonna put on the end credits, and that's what I'm gonna do.